Japan has started to crumble, and it may bring down the whole world's economy with it. For nearly half a century, Japan was the world's piggy bank. It pumped trillions into global markets. Everything from buying US Treasury bills, funding airports in India, metro lines in Australia, you name it. Its pension funds grew so massively that they became the single biggest foreign owners of everything, from European bonds to Silicon Valley tech stocks. At its peak, Japan's net foreign assets topped at $3 trillion, more than any other country on Earth. Whenever Wall Street or Frankfurt needs liquidity, Tokyo was there with an open wallet. But now, that piggy bank is running empty. In fact, the tables have turned. Japan's debt to GDP now sits at roughly 260%. That means Japan owes roughly 2.5 times more than the total size of its entire economy. For comparison, the United States, which is often criticized for having huge debts, has a debt to GDP ratio of around 125%. Even Japan's own prime minister has openly admitted that their financial situation is worse than Greece's. Greece faced several debt crises around a decade ago that nearly caused Europe's entire economy to collapse. At the very worst point in that crisis, Greece's debt-to-GDP ratio peaked at around 190%. You see, for any economy, even giants like the US or China, there are a few critical factors that ultimately decide its fate. First, it's demographics, basically how a country's population has grown or changed over the past few decades, and how it'll evolve in the coming ones. Like China, whose workforce peaked back in 2011, compared to the US, which still sees growth thanks to immigration. Then there's debt. But it's not just about how much a country owes. It's more about whether it can manage that debt without choking its own growth, and its capacity to service it. Finally, it boils down to productivity, innovation, and institutions. These decide if an economy can effectively turn resources into real growth, and whether it can maintain solid access to global markets. In the end, all these factors work hand in hand to keep things running smoothly. But the moment one starts to slow down or fails, it gradually pulls down everything else, bit by bit, until the entire economy starts falling apart. And that's exactly what's happening to Japan. In 2024, just 720,988 babies were born in Japan. To put that number into perspective, over 1.62 million Japanese people died that same year, meaning for every baby born, more than 2 people passed away. And this is Japan's biggest challenge, because the country's population has been declining steadily for the past 9 years straight. Japan is literally running out of people, particularly young people. Japan's population peaked at around 128 million back in 2010, and it has been shrinking ever since, dropping to roughly 123 million by 2025. And if this wasn't already a problem, Japan also has one of the highest life expectancies worldwide, nearly 85 years old on average. Living longer might sound great, and it is mostly, but from an economic perspective, it brings serious problems. Fewer young people means a shrinking workforce, weaker domestic demand, and lower tax revenues. At the same time, pension and healthcare costs for the elderly keep skyrocketing. You see the cycle, right? The government has tried various measures like financial incentives for families to have more kids, better childcare support, and even slightly relaxing Japan's traditionally strict immigration policies, making it a bit easier for foreign workers to come and help fill the gap. But there's only so much these measures can achieve. Cultural and structural factors like high cost of living, small housing spaces, delayed marriages, and more women pursuing full-time careers mean birth rates remain ultra low. Currently, it's hovering at around 1.2 children per woman, way below the roughly 2.1 needed just to keep the population stable. If nothing changes, by 2050, Japan's population will fall below 105 million, and possibly even 87 million by 2060. In simple terms, without dramatic actions, year after year, the tax base shrinks, public spending grows, and Japan gradually loses its ability to manage its debts.